And what's happening, everyone? It's Kyle for the Magpie 24/7 podcast, and we're the last podcast was a takeover special, and this one is a Bruce out special. So 2 in a row.
Thursdays, mate. Thursdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays seem to be magical times at the moment.
They seem to be. It's a bit mad, but we've longed for this podcast, mate. I think anybody that's listened to it for a long period of time has probably waited for the podcast where we can be happy about Steve Bruce losing his job. It's like been such a long time coming. I can't believe it. It was like when the news came through, I was sitting at work and I was like, I seen a comment on Instagram actually on one of our posts, and it was like Bruce sacked. I'm like, yeah, no bother, mate. And then I go on Twitter and it just blows up, and I'm like, yeah, fucking get in. And I
had Kerry. We were driving back, and obviously I checked everything out before we set off. Driving up, and we get to some traffic lights, and then Kerry said, "She said, I think you might pull over. I've got some news for you." And I'm sitting there thinking, "All right." And she went, "Steve Bruce has been sacked." I'm sitting there beating the horn, flashing the lights. I'm like, right, we're going to go straight home now. We've got to go straight home. We've got to have a look at this. No, to say it was a joyous moment would have been an understatement. Look, mate, he should never have been the choice. He was a bottom feeder in the championship. He was, down at Sheffield Wednesday doing a semi-decent job, you could argue, in the circumstances down there in a club that's just looking basically to survive.
Paul, did he?
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, Lee Charnley decided that it was a good idea to spend was it £4 million?
£6 million to bring him in.
6 million, was it? £6 million to free him from his contract, to bring up to Newcastle. He was never my choice. It was never your choice. He was never the choice of 99.9% of people. It's just Lee Charnley with his fixation on managers of a certain generation, of a certain age that brought him in. And we've said it time and time and time again, mate. His record was woeful. It was pathetic. At any other club, he would have been sacked ages ago. What is it? 7 wins.
38.
In 38 games. And you're looking at who some of them wins have come against. And I'll tell you what, if it wasn't for some of the cannon fodder that's been below us recently in the league, and you look at the previously relegated teams, some of the cup teams that we've played when we've had favourable draws, and we've done well off that. If it wasn't for those games, mate, his win percentage, which is a pathetic, 28%, would be even lower than Joe Kinnear's, which is about 22%. This man, make no doubt about it, if you have watched him, if you speak to a Villa supporter, a Sunderland supporter, I know there's a few of them. If you can find them under the rocks, if you can speak to them about this man, everybody who has experienced the Steve Bruce roller coaster, shall we call it, would have the same things to say about him. He's a dinosaur. He's out of touch. He attacks the fans. He critiques everybody else but himself. And he's surrounded by a bunch of yes men. He's surrounded by a bunch of media pals who protect him to the end. And that's before you even get to the likes of Alex Bruce and his son. But look, like you said, £6 million he's cost to get out of Sheffield Wednesday, £2.5 million that we spent on wages on this absolute reject, and then £8 million and he comes across, mate, it's mutual. It's a mutual decision. No, he's a greedy bastard, mate. He's being paid up for every single day on the rest of his contract. He's to come across as this, he's a Newcastle supporter. He's one of us, and we're turning on him. And the way that we've been portrayed in the media, mate, is absolutely fucking disgusting. But
yeah, we're going to cover that later, mate.
We'll get to it on the podcast. Yeah. But it's boiled my piss. But let's just say, over the fucking moon, the biggest cancer at the football club, Mike Ashley, is gone. And Steve Bruce, if Ashley was the biggest cancer, then he was a byproduct of that cancer and the toxicity and everything else at the club. So to get these two big problems out of the way, out of our football club, is fucking wonderful.
The only way is up. The only way is up, mate, now. Like, for me, Steve Bruce came in and, like, it wasn't because he said in his release, in his press release to his best mate, Luke Edwards, that fans wanted him to fail. So, like, for me, Newcastle fans weren't filling away ends up and down the country. They weren't going away to Southampton hoping for Steve Bruce to fail. They were going to support the team. Let's get that very clear. You know, like, he's came in.
Poisonous bastard, mate. Poisonous little bastard.
As soon as he came through the door, mate, it was, oh, I want to take the club forward. I want to do this, my dream job, yada, yada, yada. And the majority of fans, although they didn't want to give him a chance, they didn't want him at the club because they knew what he does to teams, they knew what he did to Sunderland, they knew what he did to Aston Villa, they knew what he did to Hull. He's relegated football clubs. He's never took a club forward in his 20-year career. He's either kept them in the same place or he's took them backwards. And after Rafa Benitez left, very popular among the fans and was taking Newcastle somewhere to be held back by the owners. And then Steve Bruce comes in. We're bringing a couple of exciting players, but even from game one, there was problems because it was protest Arsenal. There were very unhappy feelings around the club at that time. And Steve Bruce, I think Steve Bruce, along the time that he was at Newcastle, really fed into that. And he was like, Newcastle fans expect too much. Yeah. Like, he would feed into this to deflect what a shit job he was doing.
And that's the difference, mate. You've got Rafa Benitez, who would stick up for the fans, fight for the fans, and fight for what they want. And then you've got Steve Bruce, who's quite willing to throw the fans under a bus at any opportunity. It's all about
not
Steve
just
Bruce.
The fans, mate, though. Anybody.
I totally agree with anyone, but I just think one of his biggest issues.
He'd throw anybody under the bus to get him devoid of blame. Like, I've never known a manager to rely on luck and fortune or misfortune of other teams so much in my life. And for someone who's had 1,000 games and this and that, like, for me, just the absolute.
We've talked about it, haven't we? We've said, like, look, this man. We said it on previous podcasts. He's more jammed than Hartley's. He's like a cat. He constantly used to land on his feet, and he'd get more luck. You've only got to look at some of the goals that have gone in off people's asses, or we've not had a shot on target.
The last goal of the Butera, mate. The last goal of the Butera, look no further. Literally clearance goes off Eric Dyer's arse into the net. It's just like, it's typical fucking Bruce, isn't it?
It tells you everything that you need to know. But I just think, like I say, people have been very quick to jump upon the sort of issues. Well, Rafa's only won very similar amount of games, but you look at what Rafa had. He had Atsu, Hostelou up front. He had Matt Ritchie up front. A newly promoted team working on a shoestring budget, making profits in the transfer market. And you look at the investment that this Steve Bruce has had, and you look at the division, and he's just looked to try and, I think, split the fan base. He's tried to split and work on players. There's accusations that management have tried to pick certain players and said that, look, these players must play week in, week out. He's a pure puppet, for the regime, an apologist for the regime.
Yeah.
And like I say, he's despite the fact that he says that he's one of us, he never, ever, ever got the fans. The results weren't cracking when he started. He'd obviously lost against Arsenal. I think he followed that up with defeat to Norwich. So he got off on a bit of a bad foot. The performances weren't great. And like you said, he relied on absolutely huge amounts of luck. And he can say, I've got 1,000 games and all this and that you want. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. And like, when you're watching, it is absolutely terrible. We've been to that many games where you've just sat there and you're just doing it more out of routine. And you're like, you don't expect anything. There was no brand of football, mate. It was literally one tactic: hit the ball, hit Joe Linton, or try and feed off the scraps. And if it wasn't that, and he wasn't in the team, it was hit Alan St-Maximin and hope, hit and hope. And that in today's football, with the different tactics and approaches, medical science, nutrition, and all of this, it was stuck in the dark ages. And it just like a fart in a lift. We just couldn't seem to get rid of him. He should have gone, like I say, he shouldn't have ever had the job. He should have gone a week ago as soon as the new consortium came in. I was disappointed that they didn't do it straight away, if I'm being totally honest. But look, mate, he's gone. He is gone, and we can look forward now.
That's the main thing. We can look forward, and like, you mentioned before, like, that we didn't start well under Bruce, but like these not so good performances got worse and worse and worse as time went on. Like,
yes.
like from when we've started this podcast, mainly, sadly, it's been more. There's been more negative podcasts than there has been positive podcasts, and the sole
We had to
reason
change the fucking name. We changed the name of the podcast. It was shit.
What we'll have it anyone
Anyone
for
for
bacon anyone for bacon podcast. We changed the name of the podcast because of how shit Steve Bruce was, and it's like some of the it almost became routine in you, St. Paul, that the dread towards kickoff, seeing the team, seeing the same tired old tactic that you thought would work. As we've said many times in this podcast, the definition of insanity is repeating yourself over and over again, expecting a different result. And like, he would do this constantly, and then after we'd get beat, I would play really poorly, and he would say, "We'll roll our sleeves up, or the gloves are off, or I'm going to do it my way." For him not to do any of that, and it just for him just to use it as many excuses as he can, whether it be COVID, injuries, like anything, like you know what I mean. He'd go to any length to devoid himself of blame.
He's a nice man, Kyle. What you're on about? He's a nice man. He's a nice man. We haven't mentioned the fact that he's a nice man on this podcast so far. He's a nice man, supposedly.
Apparently he's a nice man, but like, obviously he gets that crack among the media. But I'm gonna cover that one later, because you mentioned the response from TalkSport in particular. Like, but that's the initial thoughts on Bruce. I'm so happy he's gone. Like, it's not like a huge thing in terms of like the takeover big, but it feels massive, because it feels like the one final cloud over Newcastle United in terms of the Ashley regime is now officially eradicated. They just need to,
apart from them ghastly bloody Sports Direct signs, but
they need to get rid of them. But obviously, he ruined Takeover Day. But I want to build up to the match, because I think it needs mentioned that the whole day leading up to it was absolutely magical. Like, we got up there early just to see what the proceedings would be like, and a lot of fans had the same idea as it happened. It was just
amazing.
It was just brilliant.
Absolutely amazing.
I've never known anything like it. Like, the streets were full, and the people parading and dancing in the streets before a game, and like,
people fancy dress. There was music outside, and we've critiqued before, haven't we? We've said when we've gone on the travels, sort of previous doors, and we've said, look, you see some other clubs and they've got fan zones outside, and they've got the music, they've got the entertainment. We had that feel, and the thing is, we just stood there for a while, just looking over to see humanity, and to see Shearer's Bar. We'll call it Shearer's Bar. Absolutely rammed, the queue to get into Shearer's Bar, queue to get in to the club shop, and like I said, just to see of black and white outside of the stadium was fantastic. We bumped into people, that we hadn't seen in absolutely ages, as well outside the stadium. Some people who said that they weren't coming back until Ashley had gone. Great to catch up with certain individuals, certain people, see them again. But just to see them with smiles on their faces, mate, looking forward to it, wanting to get in the stadium and saying, "Oh, when's the turnstiles opening? What time's it?" Wanting to be in to see the players come out to train.
Yeah,
magical, absolutely.
Soak it all up and enjoy the experience of being a fan again, mate. Because although Steve Bruce was there and that was hanging over everyone's head, I think, like, it was very much in essence that we got the club back, and the build up, and like seeing things on social media like Paddy Power's big inflatable cup, and
that was mid-like
just things like that, little things that we hadn't had, or even stories that were going around on social media, like someone went to get a paper ticket because they'd lost a season ticket or something, and there wasn't a £2 charge. Just little things which make a whole load of difference. Like going into the stadium and wanting to buy a cup of coffee. Like, I don't know if anybody else did this, but when Mike Ashley was on, I didn't buy fuck all from the kiosk out. Like, just being able to go and buy something and just soak it all up and watch the players train and watch the atmosphere build, and then
It's the experience, mate, isn't it? You should be able to go there, mate, and buy a program and buy a drink and buy, I don't know, a pack of crisps or something like that. You should be able to buy what you want, experience what you want, go out there and make a day of it, rather than just think of it as like a chore or something, because that's what it became. And you used to sort of, in a way, it was just like, if it wasn't for the social side, you'd question your sanity and just going back to repeat and watch the same diatribe that was being served up and stuff. But we bumped into Johnny and Sam, for before the game, and we were having a chat, chat with them and a laugh and a joke about stuff.
Yeah, from Newcastle Fans TV.
Yeah, and it was just like. It was just great. It was back like the old times, and you just felt, look, the noise is building, the energy is building, and you see you hear little stories. Your phone goes, you see the thing about the ticket, and you see other little things like our new chairman coming over, and he's talking to supporters and stuff outside, and it's that connection, and it's those few small percentage details, those small points. Look, mate, I was over the moon and doing car wheels that I saw that were cleaning the windows at the Gallagher end the other day. Cleaning the roof in the tunnel up to the main entrance, and cleaning windows, and the owners coming out and speaking to fans, and little things like £2 fees for paper tickets, just getting rid of. And the club, the staff saying, we don't do that anymore. That isn't a thing that we will do anymore, and stuff like that. It just means a lot.
It does.
It means so much, because it's that connection between the club and the city, and it's been ripped apart so many times and patched up with Rafa Benitez coming in and stuff like that. Everything now needs to heal. We've got rid of the cancer. We've got rid of the negativity from the club, and it was just nice as well. And even on social media and stuff like that, you're seeing people who are normally quite negative coming together, and it's just like complimenting each other and being one, and that being as united, which hasn't been there for so long, and it's only going to get better with that cabbage. Oh, I said cabbage head. I'll give myself a slap on the hand with that lovely man, Steve Bruce, out of the club.
The lovely man.
He's not cabbage headed. Let's be 100%.
You've got to be honest, Paul, and see he wasn't. He's a lovely man, and that you shouldn't call them names, because you get very upset about that.
You'll upset Alex as well, won't you? And Mrs. Brooks, and she won't be able to produce apple pies then, and apple crumble, so that'd be bad.
Extra cheesy chips and kebab and all that, but nice man.
You can get plenty of cheesy chips and chili sauce and everything else. He could even take Jeff Hendrick to go and live over with him in his new villa in Portugal.
Yeah, if he needs, if
you can take Jeff Hendrick.
Get a maid around the house, someone to clean the bog. Jeff Hendrick, Emil Kraft, some of the shit that he's brought in, he can take with him. It's great.
Can take with him, aye. And your Sports Direct mug, but yeah, Paddy Power. That was a particularly nice touch. The cup beforehand, and then there was the van going round St James's Park. And yeah, you got to love a bit of taking the piss, haven't you? You've got to love that sort of thing, a little bit of banter. But yeah, it was a joy to behold. It was up there for me with the cup finals, cup semi-finals, that excitement for the match that was coming up. It was akin and similar to that. That's the closest way that I can sort of sample it and to tell people who couldn't get there or whatever. But yeah, to get inside the stadium, made every single ticket inside sold out. We had legends of the club, Rob Lee, we had John Beresford, Keith Gillespie, David Ginola, Anton Deck were there. You name it, everybody was trying to get into the stadium, and it was just a joy to behold.
It was a huge occasion, mate. And we haven't even got on to War Flags on out yet. Like, the display was absolutely brilliant. Like, things I was thinking of what they could use, and I actually didn't think of Jimmy Nail. Big River, amazing song, one of my dad's favourite songs. So I've grown up listening to this song, and like, just to hear it, it was just like proper goosebump moment, and
just perfect, wasn't
it was as close to emotion I've came to since, like, in terms of like crying and stuff, like, since from a football perspective, like since when Gutierrez came back from cancer and stuff like that. Like it was a proper deep felt moment. Like as fans, but actually we deserved it. Like we've suffered 14 years. If this season was a chore, the last couple of years under Steve Bruce has felt unbearable at times, like turning the telly off, throwing the remote or whatever it may be. But like
I've been like this close to chucking the TV in the backyard. I'm fucking sick of this.
It's just like it just felt like a moment that every Newcastle fan around the world just deserved that moment because of the last 14 years. Like as I says on the last podcast, I was 10-year-old when he took over. Do you know what I mean? Mostly that's all I've known as a Newcastle fan, Mike Ashley. I've never known a Newcastle trying to succeed or a Newcastle trying to win trophies. I've just known not to sell our best player and can we stay in the league or get mid-table if we're lucky? Can we get to the 4th or the 5th round of the cup? Like, it's all I've known, mate. And
it was amazing, mate. The War Flags in particular, because I wanted to touch on War Flags as well, because when we were sitting there, we were waiting, we were singing our songs, we were looking, we were watching and waiting for when the banner came out. And obviously we recorded it's up on our socials and stuff on Twitter and everything. But
share that with everybody, because honestly,
but yeah, to see it, and if you didn't have a lump in your throat, if you didn't get emotional, I mean, there's times that the football can do it like nothing else can, and I remember like the Jonas one's perfect. Before that, the Gary Speed, the tragic events around Gary Speed, Bobby Robson, when it's really got the emotion. And really got a frog in your throat. And when that was, unveiled, it was really, really emotional. You could feel it all around the stadium, and everybody else was saying the same. We've seen the pictures back from Stavely, the Rubens, and the Saudi Arabian PIF, the new chairman. And you could tell that they were touched, they were moved by it as well. They were impressed by it. And the wall of noise made 15, 20 minutes before the match came. The place was nearly packed out, and people were singing their heads off. I can't remember the last time we had
a full stadium, let alone
full stadium, but 20 minutes beforehand, and they're singing out. All the songs were coming out, all the chants were coming out. At one time, there was no players on the pitch for about 10 minutes, and yet the songs were still coming, and it was such an absolute wall of noise. It was a joy to behold. It really, really was, and no matter how good it came over on the TV, it was probably 1,000 times better in the stadium. The feeling,
it's one of them where it's going to be like I was there to see that kind of thing. It was just an amazing experience to be a part of. It was just the best thing. Like just to have our club back and to be united as one, and to see the pictures of the owners happy and like celebrating the first goal, which we'll get on to. Like
not instead of the cameras panning around to Lee Charnley there, and he's only got his one person in the stadium that's his fan, and he knows who he is. He gets a mention. He
might get a mention off. He might get a mention off live when he's eventually fucked off. Like Lee Charnley, that is, or not you, Mark. But
it makes it such a difference, rather than going to the embarrassment, which is a Mike Ashley who's just there for a token appearance, or probably to raid the piggy bank, or Lee Charnley, who's like I've said before, he probably wears slip-on shoes because the bugger can't even tie his own laces. It goes to to Stavely and the rest of the consortium, and they're absolutely blown away. And you can tell they're taking away. They're wearing the Newcastle scarves, all of the merch that is possible, and it's just fantastic. And you just think, look, we've got the ownership and the fans together. The only sort of slight fly in the ointment at that point did come in the technical area by that lovely, nice man who's not cabbage-headed at all, Steve Bruce, and obviously the team that he put out. But it's such a noise coming up to kick off. And a fantastic start.
The atmosphere was unbelievable, and then we scored after a couple of minutes. Fantastic cross by, I think it was Manquillo, and then Wilson with amazing movement again in front of the defender. Like the amount of years we've waited for a striker to move like that, like it's not really sport. I don't think it's been spoke about much, but when you don't have it, when we've had Joelinton up front, you know, the left winger, or we've had Josselou, or we've had Dwight Gale, or whatever.
Mate, I went to a match pre-season when we had Jeff Hendrick up front, mate, and Joe White.
But like, just the movement,
Sure,
because like obviously you grow up watching Shearer and stuff. You learn to appreciate a good centre forward, and like just his movement again in front of the defender and the bullet header. Alan Shearer would have been proud of that one. Like, put 1-0 up, the atmosphere around the ground. I thought we were going to be Tottenham 4-5-0. I even says in my preview, if we can get an early goal and get the fans on top, Tottenham will crumble. And
because they were out of form, mate.
Yeah, exactly. We did get the early goal, but after that, it was just flat. It was for his 1000th game. It really epitomised everything Steve Bruce was about. Get the early goal, get all excited, and then it just flopped.
This is another key thing with Bruce. You know, looking back at it, when he first started out, we've never really had a 90 what I would call a 90-minute performance, professional from start to finish. Even against low league teams, we make it difficult. But gradually, game by game, month by month, we've been getting less. And this season, we might have had a decent 40 minutes against West Ham. We might have had a decent spell against Southampton. But they've been getting less and less and less. We've got to the point where we've gone from Rafa Benitez's very, very solid team that was workmanlike and stuff, down to now where we can only manage 7 minutes. We were, for that first 7 minutes, mate, we had them penned back. We were creating chances. We scored an early goal, and all the signs in those first 7 minutes were fantastic. After that, Newcastle blew the load. Literally, that was it. And the performance-wise, they weren't able to get the performance up after that. But for 7 minutes, they looked like a Tottenham team bang out of form. We looked hungry. We looked motivated. We looked lively. The crossing, the chances. And you, like you said, you just thought we could score a couple of goals here today. But alas, we were bruised.
We were. And it's like, I was saying this to you during the game, no amount of fan support is going to cover his shortcomings as a manager. Like he said before the game, get behind the team, don't think about me. And to be fair, I don't think people did once the game kicked off, and especially when we started early. And like, people listen to him, give him the benefit of the doubt. Fair enough. It's takeover day. Let's not think about Steve Bruce. You're leaving soon anyway. And it's like the problems that were still there. We've been speaking about it all season, mate. Like the ball goes wide if it's 2-on-1. They're outnumbered all the time because there's no coverage from the midfield. Like it was just absolutely abysmal. We'll concede relatively quickly because there's no closing down from the midfield. Easy goal. We're 2-1 down after 20 minutes. Easy going, and then it's just flat, mate. We don't fight.
But the thing is, you've seen that performance. You have seen that performance time and time again. You saw that performance against West Ham. You saw that performance elsewhere this season, time and time and time again. You have seen the performance that we got against Spurs, repeated against Southampton, repeated against West Ham, so on and so forth. Yeah. It's just copy and paste all of the time, but it's just like not in
30 times last season.
Not in a good, not in a good way. Not in a good way.
No improvement, just getting worse and worse and worse. And one thing I noticed, mate, and a few other fans have noticed too, how unfit is that Newcastle team, man. You can tell only training 4 times in 2 weeks. You can tell, but they're knackered, they're haggard, mate, and you can just tell. Like Tottenham played off the park. There's no excuse for it. There was nowhere to hide. The fans.
Look at Lascelles has came out. And in his interview, he's even like let slip. He says, look, we've even been looking at nutrition and trying to get that side of it sorted. This is a Premier League club. We shouldn't be looking at nutrition now. We shouldn't be looking at fitness and this and the other. It should be a standard. It should be a given that we have a fit squad. But you're quite correct. When I think they were on the takeover day, they were off a couple of days and they came in for a day. For 2 days, then they were off another day before coming in a day before the Spurs game. And you're right, they did not look fit. They didn't look motivated, but they certainly didn't look fit. And they ran circles around us. And it goes back to what Danny Rose said last season about the holiday camp mentality at the football club. It's not good enough. It is not good enough at all.
Not even close, mate. And it was a problem last season. Like, it was a genuine question whether Newcastle were turning up for training, and like as bad as we're getting, as tactically inept as we've looked. Tactically shrewd. Sorry, because tactically inept, it upsets him. Even though he's quoted as saying in 2011 he's not into tactics. But no, I don't want to upset him.
He's a nice man.
No, I want to go on record and say he's a very, very nice man. But
who can't do corners.
but like
free kicks.
It's like that 1000th game, as I said before, it epitomised Steve Bruce. Everything he was about, everything he was as a manager, everything he is as a manager, just epitomised. Just lack of idea, lack of thought, lack of anything. We'll go into half time 3-1 down, but I do want to mention this because obviously a fan collapsed during the game, and it was a bizarre set of circumstances, because 1 minute you're thinking, can we get back into the game? What's going on? The next thing you're genuinely fearing for someone's life, and like the fans went berserk to get the game stopped. The game was stopped and stuff like that, and it was just it was a really like, from an atmosphere that was like vibrant and bouncing, it just went to complete quiet in hope that this man didn't lose his life. Thankfully, they got the defibrillators over quick enough to save the man's life, and the club have released a statement saying he's on the mend and all good. But for those 10-20 minutes, mate, it was like numbing almost, and I'm pleased he's okay. I'm pleased there was a quick enough response, but I really share Gallagher Shots' sentiments on this. There should be more defibrillators in the stands, and there should be more.
There's two, isn't there? That's my belief.
In James's Park, and like, although they were quick enough this time, if it happens again, we'll be ready for it. Do you know what I mean? So I'm pleased.
I mean, the fans had to go ape. There was fans around us shouting at stewards.
Yeah,
you need to look at this and stuff like that. And to be fair, it was the Spurs player. I forget who it was actually, but it was one of the Spurs players.
It's a massive help for it.
And he was going berserk. The referee Jamal Lascelles came over. It was fantastic. They were both like, look, let's get the players off. It's just, you know what I mean. It can't go on. It's not right. The right call. The referee, I thought, was fantastic handling the situation. He got the players off, so that the appropriate amount of respect and stuff could be paid, and everything could be concentrated on just safeguarding this. This one person just up from ourselves, not too far away, where we were sat, but it was really, really, really like you literally like really scary, and you didn't know what to say, what to do. There was St. John's ambulance people running up and down, past us, and everybody was just so. They didn't want the worst. They wanted the very, very best for him. And I just think that everybody came together. There was the fans, the stewards, the St. John's, the medical staff, the football. Both sets of players were fantastic. The referee managed the situation fantastically well. Announcements went around the stadium. So it was managed really, really well. But it was just, when it first happened, it was just so frantic and panicking, like everybody around. And I suppose as well, it's really lucky about there was the nurse sat nearby, wasn't she? And then the doctor was just round the corner, in the Gaelic at the end. Yeah. Everything, went really, really well. He got the medical treatment really, really well. And the if you look on our page again, it's not a plug, but if you look on there, it's on about, we've put some links on about resuscitation, on about these pieces of kit and equipment.
Yeah,
check it out, because it can save lives, and it's a perfect point. And the result at that point, mate, becomes sort of secondary, because everybody was concerned. It was one of our own, and he was in a real bad way, and there was just so much panic and everything. But he got a huge, ovation and stuff like that. So much positive power from the rest of the fans all around the stadium, directed at this, this lad. And I'm just over the moon that the club have communicated that he's doing well, he's getting better, he's on the mend, and he received fantastic medical, care and help and stuff like that. So, brilliant. Absolutely
Yeah,
brilliant. The result was shit, but let's face it, mate. Saving this lad's life and the medical care that he got, top notch, mate.
Yeah, that was the win in all of this. Like,
Yeah,
the bloke's okay, and the doctors who got to him quick enough, like fantastic. And it was just it was a horrible moment to be a part of. To be in that silence and hoping this man's okay.
you were just praying, weren't you? You were literally
For the ovation and for the bloke to be good about the situation. It's just a good thing, and I thought I'd mention it. But they kicked the game back off to play the last 7 minutes of the first half, and we're 3-1 down, because there was a lot of people coming back from their seats, like saying, "Oh, we're 3-1 down." And it's just like, really? And we're going at the break 3-1 down, and as a game, as a concept, it's already gone. Because what does Bruce say to these players at half time? Like, he doesn't get the best out of them at half time, and anyway, he usually puts them to fucking sleep by the time they come out for the second half. And they'd had 2 team talks in the space of 20 minutes, so there's enough to put someone to sleep. You know what I mean?
Like, one Bruce team talks bad enough, but 2 in the space of 10 minutes is pushing it, isn't it?
It is, and it's like it's enough to haunt you. I know Halloween's coming up, but fucking hell, like, but
he's a nice man, though. He's such a nice man.
Lovely man, lovely man. It's Steve Bruce. Let's make sure the pro Bruce journalist, if you're listening, he's a nice man. But we're getting to the second half, and it was just totally abject, mate. Like, I think we had 1 shot on target, and that was after 2 minutes into the second half. The players just didn't look like they were playing for him. They looked knackered. They looked tired. I think they were like us, mate. They were just tired of Bruce's shit. And I think
just wanted him gone. Wanted him gone, mate. Come on, you're 2 down at home. And I was saying this to you in the stadium. Their keeper should have an absolute worldie if they still escape with a 2-goal lead at the end of it. We should be throwing the kitchen sink forward. We should be trying everything possible. But what do? We take a striker off. Do we replace him with Dwight Gale, birthday boy, another striker? No. It boils your piss. He brings on Ryan Fraser, and again, we talk about square pegs and round holes, and I did on the view from the van. You bring Fraser on its central defensive midfield, and you've got midfielders playing up top. You've left Joe Linton on, who's having an absolute stinker at this point.
He was.
It was it was quite narrative to the tactics, because the tactics the entire game was launch the ball up to Joe Linton, and then watch him turn like an Arctic truck, and try and get something away. But he had a shocker, mate. I know we've seen slight improvements in him recently, but he was diabolical, and how he didn't get substituted off.
To be fair, mate, I think
mate.
I think under a new manager, we might get to see the best of him.
I hope so. But mate, there's no excuse. He was shit against Spurs. He was absolutely shit. And he did headers, but he didn't find another player, or he just fall on his ass, and he wouldn't run back. He wouldn't track back. The effort wasn't there against Spurs. I didn't see that. And like I said, we're two down at home, and I'm expecting an onslaught. I'm expecting Dwight Gale to come on to play alongside Callum Wilson, to play, up top with Alan St. Maximin if possible. And I am expecting us to pepper their goal, and we didn't, mate. It just looked as if we couldn't be bothered. It was testimonial. It was, Steve Bruce will say he won the second half. He won the second half 1-0. That's probably what he is putting his CV for his next job when he gets a job at Vale or somewhere. But, mate, it wasn't enough. They scored an own goal, but their keeper, he doesn't need to wash his kit. He can wear it again next time. It's absolutely clean and perfect. It's pristine. It's so frustrating, mate, because the fans were trying to get behind the team all the time. But the football, mate, again, after the 7-minute period, for the entirety of the rest of the game, was dog shit.
Yeah, it was. It just stunk of what Steve Bruce has been about with Newcastle, mate, and like it just stunk with him. It just stunk with him holding out for the payday. Like, everything about his press conferences the last couple of weeks, everything about the performances this season has just stunk of him holding out for a massive payday, and he got it in the end. Like, people are going on about how badly treated he's been and stuff. I'm sure he'll cry into his millions in the fucking bank. Do you know what I mean? Like,
when it costs us 40,
get
50
me violin for you, mate. Like, it's fucking pathetic. Oh, they blame me, and I was treated badly, and
they called me names.
It's
me, man. What in primary school?
Absolutely pathetic. Like, I was gonna wait to hold on to this, but I can't. Like, the response from TalkSport in particular has been absolutely fucking pathetic. Like, they're saying Steve Bruce has been sent the worst ever abuse, and Gabby Bonlahor is saying that Newcastle deserve to be relegated for the way we've treated Steve Bruce.
Hey,
like,
1 second. Not too long ago, Steve Bruce was saying he was getting love letters of people telling him what a fantastic job he was doing. Now all of a sudden, we're the biggest bunch of bastards going, and we're bullying them.
And now he's been sent death threats, and he's like, I've seen some tweets today from so-called journalists saying that Steve Bruce's sadly passed away parents has been brought into it. Like, I've seen Bruce get abused on a personal and managerial level, and that's all we've kept at our managerial level. But we've mentioned this in previous podcasts when we've wanted him out the club as well, where personal, you don't cross a certain line. But I've seen journalists try and say things like that in regards to a majority, basically a majority is a majority of fans calling him personally, and it's not. It's even been mentioned on Sky Sports that he's been called
lazy mate.
Cabbage Head. He's been called Cabbage Head. That's because it's been nicknamed because he had a cabbage chucked at him for being shit.
Aston Villa.
Yeah, Aston Villa. Highest budget in Villa history. In the championship, highest championship budget in history, had them 13th. So obviously frustrations. Apparently he got forced out of there and drove out of there by the fan base. It's Sunderland, people throwing coins at him. Apparently,
it's never your fault.
and needs police escorts and stuff. Like, every time he gets sacked, mate, it seems to be that there's this narrative that he's been drove out or he's been hounded out. Like, do they not sit and ask themselves why he's been hounded out of a job? For the most part, on our side, I can only speak for us, mate. Like, but we've questioned him as a manager, and Gabriel Bonhor the Spawn was going on about facts and comparing it to Rafa and stuff. Like, you're completely delusional. Like, if you want to compare it to Rafa, you could do your own podcast on that, but I'm not going to. Like, we've done it many a time, mate, and it's like,
you can't compare.
You haven't got a fucking clue. If you think Rafa and Steve Bruce did a similar job, you were absolutely, like, delusional. Like, you're on fucking cloud fucking cuckoo.
There comes the fact though, mate, though, now with the new ownership, right, we are going to have to get a thick skin, and it's the old hated, adored but never ignored. For a club who isn't a big club, for a club who he came out today and said, I hope to get relegated and this, that and the other, and I think they'll get relegated, blah blah blah. He's just desperate, envious. The saltiness about all these comments is unbelievable. You're hearing stuff coming out from, like, Spurs supporters. Well, at one point, Saudi PAF were going to buy that club and stuff. So, like, Manchester United supporters, they've got Saudi involvement at the moment. Sheffield United, they've got Saudi. It's just saltiness. It is just jealousness because of the situation that we now find ourselves in, and the comments coming from the Saudi PIF about the investment in the club, in the fans, in the infrastructure, in transfers and all this sort of thing, and even the Premier League getting salty, putting in temporary bans to try and limit what we can do, and this more anti-competitive behaviour, may I add, which is probably going to end up in legal cases and stuff and whatnot. But we've got to get used to it, and it's the old thing of hated, adored, never ignored. And to be honest, Talk Sport should be renamed Talk Newcastle. But because all they've done is bang on about us for what feels like weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And these so-called ex-pros, the player that you mentioned before, he was shit at Aston Villa. He was never a big player, this, that, and the other. And you've got others that they bring on and they dig out, and you just think your opinions don't even matter. And I put something up on our socials, another plug for the Twitter, on about looking forward and not looking back, because we've got a cracking future at the football club.
And
and
Steve
we've got
Bruce
rid of the
was
problems. So, yeah, just wait until the day that we win something in the near future. Wait for the day we get back to European competition. Wait for the day when we are equipped to go to a Manchester City, or when we're equipped to go to a Chelsea or a Manchester United, and put a couple of goals past them. When we are up there, and they will hate it. It will be like saying it through gritted teeth. But my message would be, get fucking used to it. Get fucking used to it, because the future is bright for Newcastle United, and people just don't like it because it's going to affect their club, their team, and stuff like that. So, yeah, have as much salt as you want. We will counter it, and yeah. So, yeah, that will be the best answer to these gobshites who have spewed their verbal diarrhea all over the airwaves. I used to listen to TalkSport a little bit. I don't bother now because it's just shit. It's clickbait. And yeah, they're going to have to get with the agenda. Whether they want to or not, we will find ways round. Even today, the finance minister for Saudi Arabia talking about this ban. And he's saying, well, that's fine because, yeah, it's Saudi PIF and they're a separate entity. We can have many other companies from within the country. There's no crime in a Saudi Arabian company sponsoring. They can sponsor. That's so fine. There's separation. There's proof, or we wouldn't have got the takeover in the first place. So, yeah, let them cry over the spilt milk that don't like Newcastle. Do we care? Do we care? Yeah, salty comments.
No way.
And it's coming, mate. I can't wait for January to come round, and I can't wait for next summer. And also the manager appointment.
The managerial appointment. Like,
by the way, it's not going to be fucking Mark Hughes, Richard Keys, your absolute fucking deluded fool.
Or Sam Allardyce, Simon Jordan, your absolute fucking frog leg. Hate. Like, I've never known anything like it. It's just Bruce is the last of the old guard. Dinosaurs that shouldn't be in football, and these mates in the media, I'll defend them to the bitter end. But thankfully, Bruce is finally fucked off.
So take 8 million. I don't think you deserve a penny of it. I'll say that because I don't think you should be paid for failure.
Not a fucking penny.
Take your £8 million, and I hope you enjoy it. I really, really do. I hope it's worth selling your credentials out, selling out your so-called Geordie roots and all that sort of thing. I hope it's worth all of what you've done. Upsetting the fans, causing division, being a puppet for the regime. I hope it's worth all of that. I don't want you anywhere near St James's Park ever again. Can you imagine the scene if he comes back and he manages another team and he's in the away dugout? The roof will fucking come off the stadium. I don't want him anywhere near football. I wouldn't wish him on, well, maybe just Sunderland. But apart from that, I wouldn't wish him on any other club.
I wouldn't wish him on any other club.
He's a fraud and he's a joke. And he talks about his family, mate. Look after your family. Go to Portugal. You can have Jeff Hendrick. You can take a couple of the other players, and you can take your Giant Sports Direct mug and just fuck right off. Never want to see them. Never want to see them again.
It is a case
Not
of
one of those fraud.
I'm sure in a pub or whatever, he's a nice man. But as a football manager, I'll go on a limb and I'll go on a limb and I'll say,
yeah, that's what we call him now.
He's the worst manager in Newcastle United history. Yeah. For me, he's the most disliked. His tactics were fucking clueless. Last season, there was times where I hated being a fan. He nearly took my love away for Newcastle United for football.
Strangled the club.
He was that fucking bad. And not only that, his little pals in the media are defending him all the time and saying he's a nice man with nothing to back it up, even though they're being hit with straight facts, not being hit with an agenda or hate the family or anything. Stone cold facts of what Steve Bruce is doing wrong, whether it's the worst performing team or bad run or anything. But they would just churn it into he's a nice man, he's got experience, he'll get you good, and that's it. There's just a hype behind he's a nice guy, and we're getting attacked by loads of fans. But at the end of the day, as he says before, man, we're fucking coming. We're here now. We're the richest team in the world, and give her a couple of years, give her a little bit back under our feet, and we're coming for years, like all years. But we
won't forget as well.
They'll try
we will not forget.
They'll try through financial fair play to stop them, mate, but they'll not. They cannot stop what's coming, and what's coming is Newcastle United. But
the thing is, mate, look at this. I read something today, right? That you talk about obstacles being put in the way. Saudi Arabia shirt sales are going mad over in Saudi Arabia for Newcastle shirts. If you're selling those shirts for, you've got a population of 50 million or whatever. if you're selling them out for a tenner a shirt, think about the money, the opportunities that we have got to be able to create extra revenue drive from there. Look at Sports Direct. They paid £1.2 million per season for the advertising. How much are you telling me that is under market value when you're seeing other stadium naming rights going for 100 million? You're seeing stadium advertising deals going for 50, 60 million pound. Mate, there's potentially hundreds of millions of pounds from shirt sales, from legitimate sponsorships at market rate, as opposed to giving it away to Sports Direct, that you can get in. Couple that with the fact that they can spend as much money as they want to on the training ground, the stadium, the youth development, and spend as much personal money as they want to on that. And those things alone will push Newcastle United up the league into a different stratosphere. So, yeah, all these little salty comments, all these ex-pros, all these Jim Whites, all these hairy-handed Richie Keys and stuff like that. Just sit. And these same players, these little hypocrites that are coming out left, right, and centre, will be the same so and so's who are reporting from the World Cup when it's in Qatar and so on and so forth. So yeah, have your saltiness, have your little day, have what you think of your little digs and stuff like this, and your cheeky comments about, oh, I think you should have Mark Hughes and stuff like that. You can stick your ideas where the sun doesn't shine, as far as I'm concerned. Steve Bruce might have been a nice man, but he certainly wasn't a nice manager. No. From what Alan St. Maximin has said, yeah, great on the family side of it and everything else like that, and the human side of it. But mate, when it comes to tactics, organization, substitutions, training, results, financials, every other way you want to look at it, mate, on a footballing perspective, the man was a dinosaur and he should have been put out to pasture a long time ago. He's made his money and then he's looked after his family for generations to come into the future. He didn't need it, but he was greedy and he was narcissistic. Well, he was a narcissist for me. And how he didn't walk away. If it was so bad, mate, and it wasn't because of the money, he could have walked away in the summer when he said he considered his position, but he didn't. And why didn't he? He wanted his £8 million. You've got your £8 million now. You can piss off to Portugal and never come back to Tyneside ever again. And this comes from somebody. I want the old player. I love the fact that Gillespie was there at the weekend, Rob Lee, John Beresford, David Ginola, a whole host of stars from years gone by. I want Kevin Keegan to come back to them, not to manage us, but to be involved in the club and maybe an ambassador or be there on match days and that sort of thing. I want the old guard to be involved. I've talked before, both before Newcastle Fans TV and on Magpie 24/7, about a Geordie DNA. So I want the club's infrastructure to do well. I want the youth system to do well. I want a director of football and I want people who know what they're doing and specialists. We've got players already like Mark Overmars, who's done a fantastic job with the youth system over at Ajax.
He has.
Potentially linked with the director of football job here. I want positions like that set up and sorted, and it's just about making sensible decisions. And on youth recruitment, on the youth side of it, and the youth academy and the training, we can spend as much money as we want. It doesn't affect this £105 million losses over 3 seasons that you can make. It's extra money. It's side money to that. So yeah, everybody who's just sniping, everybody who's taking little dick shots and stuff at the moment like that. Mark my words, we will have our day, and Newcastle fans will not forget. We will not forget, and we will remind you when we're on our way up and when we are succeeding, when we are being successful and we are doing things with everything behind us that we need to have. We will remind you. We'll remind you of these days, or we will sing about Agbon Lahore and the likes. We will remind Richard Keys what he's got up to and how he should not be calling anybody when he lives in a greenhouse himself. He shouldn't be throwing stones. So, yeah, you can come out with all your salty comments that they want at the moment. But, yeah, the Spurs game, mate, the football was shit. Everything else around it was absolutely fantastic. Brilliant that the lad who took ill in the East Stand, which should be renamed, I think, the Kevin Keegan Stand. But fantastic that he seems to be on the mend. And the football club is on the mend as well, mate.
It is. Good. Yeah. Good. It is. It's good. It's all good. It is. But it was just, I think it was important to have that one final dig at Steve Bruce because his podcast,
Cheerio,
for the main bit, has been wanting him out of the club. So Steve Bruce, good riddance, and we don't need
Take
to talk
your
about
bacon,
you because
sign
you're
off.
fucking shit and you're fucking useless. Nice man. Make sure it's a nice man, Paul. Say a nice
man, terrible
man,
manager.
but fucking shit. But we'll move on. Out with the old, in with the new. There's 3 names being linked, Paul. Obviously, Eddie Howe, Favre, and Fonseca, former Roma manager. It's while we've been doing the podcast, Fabrizio Romano, he's one of the big wigs in terms of journalism, but he's tweeted out tonight saying Fonseca is open and ready to accept the Newcastle job. Board's still thinking about candidates. Antonio Conte is not even an option. Former Roma and Shakhtar manager is the front runner as of now. Yeah. So by looks things, Fonseca is going to be the main man. I didn't know much about him 2 days ago, but from what I've seen of his style of play and what he said in the past, quotation-wise and stuff like that, I know more about his football philosophy than I do about Steve Bruce, and I've seen 97 games in charge at Newcastle United under Steve Bruce, and I know more about this lad's football already. High pressing. I tell you what, if he wants to play high press with Newcastle, he's going to struggle the first couple of weeks because the fitness of those players is going to have to go up some fold to get to the standards this lad wants. But it's an exciting.
I think it is an exciting. That was the word I was going to use. It's an exciting prospect. From what I've read, he's already given to Staveley and the rest of the consortium detailed plans on players, on fitness, on changes, short, medium term that can be made. Even small things like shortening the pitch down from either side, compacting the pitch in, but still keeping the width of the pitch going, so we can attack and exploit with our wide players and our tricky players, your St. Maximans, your Miguel Mirons, and the likes. But then it gives less space for players to run in behind the defence. Hopefully the defence can still be a little bit more compact. We can stop conceding as many stupid goals. I think a Fabian Schär in his system would be fantastic. I remember him more from Shakhtar Donetsk. I must admit, I was like, is he still there? Is he still there? And then obviously it came in the Roma. Yeah, he's at Roma, didn't he? But yeah, certainly a very attack-minded coach. Likes to score goals. Likes to outscore goals. Very tactically on it, I think, as well. And there's huge improvements. Mate, there's so much room for improvement. We can't take a corner to save our fucking life. Well, we can't take a free kick to save our life.
Exactly.
And we've got players, mate, who are devoid of confidence. Sean Longstaff's come out talking about his mental health recently, and how that's been really, really down about getting help. It's about managing these players like a Rafa Benitez used to do. Because look at Sean. He's a perfect example, mate. If Fonseca can come in, put his arm around him, get him playing anywhere near the football he used to do when he first came in, then there's no doubt that we can perform better. We've got some good players. We've got better players in our team than some of the players down the Premier League. Yeah. It's about tactics. It's about a system and little things like making that presentation to Staveley and saying, look, if we narrow the pitch down, that is going to help us in the short term until we can get a better quality of play and until we can put a new system in place, which we can engulf the entire club and stuff in. This is what I want to hear. This is, for the first time, a little bit of different thinking. Like you touched on before, it's not a case of repeating it for repeating its sake and then just expecting a different result, mate. Because that's not what happened. We're in a scrap. And we've got to scrap and fight.
The honeymoon period of new owners and hopefully Fonseca coming in as well. I think that'll give everybody a lift, and going into the next couple of games, I can see we're being dangerous, because I think a lot of players will be on the chopping block, mate. To be honest, with the new takeover and the new manager coming in, they'll be playing for their futures. All of them. Nobody is safe. Maybe Maxman, maybe Dubravka. No one is safe, in my opinion. So there'll be a honeymoon period where we might see better performances and stuff like that. But I was going to save the new manager podcast until someone was appointed. And as for Palace in a couple of days, mate, I'll just do a preview on that tomorrow. I think because obviously the likes of Graham Jones and stuff, I think his press conference will be interesting. So I'll just do a video for the YouTube channel on that one.
Yeah, that's good. And the thing is, all we can do, mate, just to quickly touch on Graham Jones is, look, all we can do is wish him the very, very best. It will be interesting, no doubt, because he used to play 4-4-2 down at Luton and stuff like that. Interesting to see if we do play 2 up top, change formations. But look, I wish nothing but the best. He's going to be in charge of the training this week, the tactics, the substitutions. I hope we can get something. I think we can get something out of this weekend's game, mate. We need to get something with Chelsea on the horizon and stuff. So best of luck to Graham Jones. And I'm looking forward to the weekend in a positive frame of mind because Mike Ashley and Steve Bruce are out of the football club. They are no more, and we have a positive future, mate. So, yeah, fuck to everybody else. The haters out there for Newcastle United can go and swivel as far as I'm concerned. Looking forward to the game of football this weekend, Crystal Palace, and seeing what we can do against Patrick Vieira and his new Crystal Palace side. And I'll just Patrick Vieira, classy what that man said about the Newcastle takeover compared to some of the other salty comments from other managers and stuff who were just looking after their own interest. But yeah, classy by Vieira, but we're going to need a big performance, mate, because I thought they played well against Arsenal.
I totally agree, mate, and I think I'll cover that more in depth tomorrow. Yeah. But I think it's an important game for Newcastle, and hopefully Graham Jones can get 3 points on the board for Newcastle and try and get work sorted for hopefully Francesca coming in, which we'll be doing a podcast. But in terms of Newcastle, that's us pretty much done. Yep. It's just one final thing I want to touch on. Going forward, Magpie 24/7. Me and Paul, we've noticed we're a little bit inconsistent with when we upload things, because we'll say one day and then something usually happens. So what we're going to do is now, to give us a bit of time and a bit of consistency going forward, we're now going to do a podcast live on the YouTube channel every Thursday, and then it'll be uploaded to Spotify and iTunes and all that after that one's finished. So every Thursday around 7-8 o'clock every week, we'll be going live with the Magpie 24/7 podcast for the same as always. Me and Paul shooting the breeze, talking about Newcastle United. We just think a bit more of a consistent and a direct
certain night
of action is the best way forward. Just so you know when you can see when you can listen to and stuff like that. Obviously, all the previous podcasts are on Spotify if you want to listen to them. But I think one podcast per week gets back on the ball, gets back in the swing of things. And yeah, but that's the future from now on. But we're not going to talk about it. We're just going to do it every Thursday. Make sure we crack on, get amongst it, and get back enjoy making podcasts again. Because obviously there'll be a different manager. Hopefully,
football to talk about.
Football to talk about for one, and a new like lease of life under the new ownership as well. But we just want to let you know that before we let you go tonight. It's been a fantastic podcast. I've really enjoyed it, and saying bye to Steve Bruce, the nice man, the worst manager in the history of Newcastle United, bar none for me. But finally, Paul, Steve Bruce is out the club. Mike Ashley's out the club. And now the only way is up. I
will just say as well, can I just chuck in there? Liam sent a comment through for us to mention, but I want to mention it on a future podcast, Liam. So I know you listen to a lot of our podcasts. So there's a lad from the page. You've just messaged a lot. He sent a question through, but I think it's with regards to new management and also certain fans, like the Arsenal fans having a little bit of a pop. And that, so yeah, I think it's better for when we discussing, like you said, new manager. I just want to say, I'm not skirting over it, Liam. We will definitely get to it. I've got it on my phone. I was just checking there just to make sure that we've got it on. But got it on. We will be discussing it on the upcoming podcast, mate.
Spot on. Well, I think that's everything, mate. Again, much appreciated. Spend the night with you, and onwards and upwards. Sayonara, Steve Bruce. Fuck you. You're horrible cunt in terms of your managerial reign. You're a nice man, but horrible in terms of the last couple of years. Absolutely horrible. But
no more terrible appointments, mate.
Leave a comment. Follow on more socials. The links will be in the description below. And I catch you in a bit, everyone. See you next week.
Let's go, Grant.